Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of the Pick Six. I'm your host, Mike Wobschall, inside the field house at TCO Performance Center. Thank you for submitting your questions. Now let's answer them. The first one comes from Ben in Hawaii. The Thielen fumble really changed the momentum in the game. Do you see these types of plays as a problem moving forward? Well, Adam doesn't drop the ball or fumble the ball very much. Adam is a big-time player, so when he makes a play, it's usually a big-time play. And when he makes a mistake, it can be a big-time mistake. But look, the guy has had 100 receiving yards in 8 straight games. He has the third most receiving yards in the NFL since 2016. Let's forgive Adam for the fumble and take our chances with him next week against the Lions. Question number 2 comes from Kevin. Zimmer says there's lots of good things after the loss. Sorry, that's what losing teams say. No excuse to lose that game at home. Forget playoffs unless things change. Pump the brakes a little bit, my man Kevin, on the panic button. Remember, the Vikings lost to a really good New Orleans Saints team, and they beat them in a lot of important statistical categories. Overall, I thought the Vikings' effort was pretty good. Diggs and Thielen each had a touchdown and 100 yards. And how about the Vikings' defense holding Drew Brees to 120 yards passing? If I had told you they were going to do that before the game started, you would have guessed the Vikings won. Halfway through the season, the Vikings have 4 games, but keep this in mind. Their next 3 games are all against NFC North opponents. The first step to making the playoffs is to win your division. The Vikings can take a huge step forward in that effort next week against Detroit. The next question comes from Brad. Count me as one who hated to see us beaten by turnovers, but impressed by most of our play. A first-round bye is unlikely, but I don't see our season as gone by any means. It's easy to be a prisoner of the moment in this league. Only 16 games, so every game matters, but the Vikings have 8 more games to go. As I said earlier, the next 3 all against division opponents. Keep in mind, the Vikings have 3 losses this season, 2 of them to the Rams and the Saints, who are a combined 14-1. You can forgive those losses, especially considering the Vikings went punch for punch with the Rams on a short week, losing only by 7, and they beat themselves against the Saints last week. The next question comes from Joe. Why is Cousins getting so many batted balls? Is that something that can be fixed? Yes, it can, Joe. It can be fixed, and I bet you Kirk Cousins is working on it right now. Cousins can do a better job of avoiding those defensive linemen with their hands in the air. Also, the offensive line can do a good job of burying those defensive linemen when they choose to jump up and try and bat Kirk Cousins' passes down. This is a tactical game, so whenever someone is using an effective tactic against you, you got to find a way to turn that around. A lot like defenses, when they blitz, offenses will use the screen to neutralize the blitz. Cousins and company got to find a way to neutralize these linemen jumping up to bat down passes. The next question comes from Dave. We're clearly inferior to the Rams and Saints. What do we need to do to turn this around? Yeah, it was a 7-point loss on a short week to the Rams and a close game at home against the New Orleans Saints. Look, in the Rams game, too many big plays allowed by the Vikings defense. And then in the Saints game, the offense turned it over too many times. Fix those 2 issues, the Vikings are competing and maybe beating those 2 high-caliber teams. The final question comes from Gerald. Our young players like Holton Hill and Brian O'Neill got valuable experience that will help us moving forward. Yes, those 2 guys both got the start against the New Orleans Saints. Hill for an injured Xavier Rhodes, and Brian O'Neill has been starting at right tackle with Riley Reef missing at left tackle and Rashad Hill playing on that side. So that is the silver lining. Vikings backups and young players have played well this season. That will serve the team well going forward when we get down the stretch of this season. That's it for this week's edition of the Pick Six. Thanks for watching. If you want to be in next week's edition of the Pick Six, you can. You just got to submit a question to the email address at the bottom of the screen. In the meantime, stick around Vikings.com for more coverage of your favorite team.